When the sirens sound and the stakes are high, what actually happens behind the scenes? Emergency management isn't just about the crisis, it's about the community we build before the storm hits. Every episode, we explore local emergencies as well as national, dissecting the logistics of emergency response and sharing practical tips to help you stay prepared. Whether you're a first responder or a resident looking to sharpen your safety plan, you're in the right place. We're pulling back on the curtain on the world of disaster response, from breaking down how we handle large-scale local events to giving you the insider tools you need to protect your home and family. We're here to make sure you're ready for whatever comes next. Thanks for joining us. Now grab your kit, stay informed, and let's go on scene. Welcome to On Scene with Emergency Management, the official podcast of Franklin County Emergency Management. I'm your host, James Hicks, and I'm joined, as always, by Franklin County Emergency Management Director Nicholas Thorpe. So, Nicholas, what are we going to talk about today?
Hello, James. This is exciting for us. Let's just dive into it. It's been a while since I've been on the podcast. We've had a lot of things happen in Franklin County. Luckily, none of them have been too impactful, but there have been some things that have gotten our attention, and I think has gotten the attention of our community as well. So I think we're going to touch on a little bit about some severe weather we've seen, whether it be snow, ice, and hurricanes and tropical storms, to just large-scale special events that we've had over the last year or so.
Okay, where do you want to start with that?
Well, let's go back to probably one of the first things that really got our attention since I got hired in 2022 was Tropical Storm Debbie. I think up until Hurricane or Tropical Storm Debbie, a lot of things we were doing was more of in the training mode of getting prepared for large impactful storms. I think Debbie really said, no, this is one that we're going to have to activate the EOC, and we're going to have to flex our communication skills, but also our damage assessment skills.
And now Debbie, for those who might not be tracking with the actual names, that was the storm that came through right before one of the biggest hurricanes that ever hit North Carolina.
Right. It was right before Hurricane Helene. It sort of was a shot across the bow during hurricane season last year. Hurricane Debbie came right up through the Atlantic coast, up through Wilmington, pretty much right up I-95, in between I-95 and Highway 1, and came right across Franklin County. Now, some of our partners to the east of us got actual tornado touchdowns that caused damages and a couple deaths. But Franklin County, we saw, I think, 8 tornado warnings, which means either a tornado was seen on the ground or rotation was coming over Franklin County. And out of those 8 tornado warnings, I think we had 3 or 4 touchdowns. They were all classified as EF0 to EF1, which is the smallest type of tornadoes you can have, but still the most tornadoes ever touched down in Franklin County in recent memory.
So let's go into that too. So we get reports of a tornado maybe touching down. What actually determines if a tornado did touch down or not?
So it's after the fact that the National Weather Service comes out and does an assessment, and they will determine whether it's a straight line wind incident or if a tornado actually touched down. They'll bring out meteorologists and scientists who are experts in that to look at how the grass is laying, how trees are laying, the type of damage, the amount of damage caused to homes. And then they'll make a determination that, this probably was a tornado. If no one else saw it, it probably was a tornado, or it could just been straight line winds, which can be just as damaging as a tornado.
Yeah, so there's some science involved and
Absolutely.
Some measurement, not just, somebody caught a picture of it, that's what makes it real. It's actually some science behind it all.
There is science behind it, but that's in absence of someone actually witnessing it. Yeah. And even if someone says they saw a tornado, unless they take a picture of it or something, then we still have to go through this process of all the science and to confirm if it was a tornado and how big it was.
Mm-hmm. And so what did you and your team do as part of this storm to respond? So what happens and triggers your department to do something?
So about 8 to 10 days out, the National Weather Service is already telling us that there's a potential for the formation of tropical storms that are coming off the coast of Africa. So we're already watching this thing as it gets closer. About 5 days out, we're getting a good understanding if it's going to impact North Carolina in one way or another. 3 days out, we're talking about 72 hours out. By then, we've already started pushing out information that people should be tracking this storm as it moves in. 3 days out, we know where in North Carolina it's going to hit. About 48 hours, we're locked in. We know where it's going. We know what the impacts are going to be. So over the course of 5 days, we increase our communications flow. We start meeting with our teams, facilitating conference calls with county management, all our fire departments, all our police departments, all our municipalities, making sure everyone's on the same page on how the county is going to respond should something bad happen with this system that's moving through.
Okay. And then when you're getting close to the storm actually hitting, so what are you doing then?
So around 12 to 24 hours out, we're making final decisions on activating the county's Emergency Operations Center, which is the location where we bring in our partners who are going to have a critical role in ensuring that government still is operating, to ensure that emergency response is still occurring throughout the incident, no matter what the impacts are. So for Hurricane Debbie, we brought in Franklin County Emergency Medical Services, EMS. We brought in yourself, Public Information Office, our entire staff, the 5 of us, including the Fire Marshal's office, was activated. And we invited the Sheriff's Office to come in as well, and they were able to stop by from time to time during that incident. And that just keeps us all on the same page, so we're tracking power outages, road closures, flooding. And in this case, we were watching tornado warnings and watches pop up, and once we got confirmed or sightings that they were on the ground in Franklin County causing damage, then we would send out a team to go and assess what that damage looks like. So.
Okay. And throughout the course of this, and I was just thinking about when you watch a show, and usually it's something like a military operation, and you're in the room and everybody's behind computers, and there's one person saying, I need information here. It's kind of like that, and just not, that's a little overly dramatic, but it's that sort of you have different people in the room working on different things, and so when things come up, they can alert the EOC manager or whoever and share that information right in the same room.
Yeah, I think we're all working towards that, having the really cool big room that's on risers with TV screens everywhere, and it looks like mission control out of NASA. To give you the goal of what we're trying to build. But everyone in the EOC has a role and responsibility, from our EMS partners, making sure that EMS is still operational. They are also a workforce for emergency management in disaster setting, because they do have a lot of people out in the field. They can help cover a lot of ground for us. To, our finance and administration specialists sitting there and tracking costs and helping with answering questions or monitoring media for rumors, and so we can get on top and get the truth out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So everyone has a role in the EOC for sure.
Yeah. And so what do you look for in a storm? A lot of times we don't talk about demobilization or the shutting down, but what is the point at which you start to think about how do we shut down these operations and return back to normal?
So the textbook will say, as soon as you put resources out into the field, as soon as we open the EOC, we need to be thinking about how to close the EOC. And so that's always in our back of our mind, but I think once we know that the storm has passed us, nothing's getting any worse, then we start making that decision of who can go home, can we ramp back down to normal operations. Mm-hmm. And it's a process. Ramping up to an EOC activation and declaring an emergency is a step-by-step process, not only in how we do it, but the levels of activity we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. And demobilization is the same way. We might shut down the EOC, but we still might be in augmented response status, right? Mm-hmm. It just means the EOC is not needed there to help maintain situational awareness. So same concept. Once in Hurricane Debbie, once we knew the storm was past, we knew power outages weren't getting any worse, and we weren't expecting any more tornadoes. Then it's like, okay, now after 12 hours of working, who can go home first? And we start sending people home, and we look to how do we get back to that new normal?
Yeah. And I think it was not too long after that particular storm that Helene come through, and I believe we weren't sure the track that it was going to take or what it was going to look like, but I think there was a little bit of preparation because we weren't sure where it was going. Was that?
Yeah, Helene. I'm not going to say snuck up on us or anything like that, but Helene did pose a problem. We didn't know if we were going to have to go through this whole process again, and Helene, again, watching the tracks and everything, just kept on moving further and further and further west. There was a part that we were expecting a Category 3 hurricane. By the time it made landfall, made its way up Highway 1, was going to come right through Franklin County. So we were just as concerned about what that was going to look like. And it just kept on moving further and further west to the point where we weren't expecting any impacts at all, not even thunderstorms or outer bands even. And that put us in a unique position because we weren't impacted directly, but it opened our county up to being able to offer help. And, everyone from the sheriff's office to emergency management to EMS to a lot of our fire departments stepped up in Helene and responded to the west to provide aid in one way or the other.
So what we're looking at too with that is that's a good example of some of the work that emergency management and even other departments like EMS do is when a storm hits something as devastating as Helene, there's an opportunity to go help out there. And I know we sent some people out there from your department as well as even EMS. We're out there helping as well.
Yeah, so what the state will do, a lot of times they'll reach back out to unimpacted areas and say, hey, like the North Carolina office of OFSM, the Office of the Fire Marshal and the State Fire Marshal, office there in Raleigh will reach out and say, we need firefighters and fire apparatus to go fight a fire or go do fire things somewhere else. And they'll roster people, and it's our job in emergency management to ensure that that request is reaching all our fire departments. Same with North Carolina Office of Emergency Medical Services. They'll say, we're going to put together an ambulance strike team, and we're going to send ambulances out to the impacted area to run 911 calls. So that's one of the roles of emergency management is at the state level and at the local level is find the resources, coordinate the resources, and push those resources out to impacted communities that need their services.
And so if we go back to the local level, I know it wasn't but a couple of months after all of that happened that we experienced a incident here that really rolled out a lot of resources in county and help from out of the county when a boy went missing in the Tar River.
Yeah, so we're not all meteorologists, and things that can go wrong aren't always weather related. They can be human related, right? And so we had a report of a missing person in the Tar River in the Missioner's Crossroads area of the county, and we immediately rolled out resources, and we leveraged our mutual aid partners. And so when I say mutual aid partners, is we call the surrounding counties around us and say, this is our problem, these are the resources we need, can you help lend us those resources? So we immediately put boats in the water along the Tar River. We activated the Youngsville dive team to get into the water and start searching in the water, and then started activating our volunteer groups. And after about the first 12 hours of that, we realized that this thing was going to get a lot larger, and we had a larger area to search. So we started calling on our partners from Rocky Mount and Wake Forest, Vance and Granville counties, and even Warren County. So talk about a whole team effort from our region to come in and help find that missing child and bring some closure to the family. But it was 96 hours of searching, and it was not easy searching. It was a very technical process on how you search for somebody in the water.
Mm-hmm. And I remember when you called me to let me know what was going on, and I came out to handle media. But for the emergency management perspective, what's going through your mind? Like, what are the check boxes or things like that when you get that call and they say, we need you to come in and help us?
So I think anytime I get a call, the first thing is what's going on, right? We have to get the situational awareness down so we have the picture. Once we have the picture, then we can start figuring out what are the problems, right? So the picture is someone was last seen in the water. They haven't come up yet. We haven't seen them. All right. So what are the problems? We need help searching for them. We don't know where to do that. Mm-hmm. So from an emergency management standpoint, we go into problem solving mode. It's all right. If this is the situation, where are the resources I need to solve these problems? How do I look under the water? How do I look along the riverbank? How far does this river go? Who do I need to tell, and how do I need to tell them what we're doing out here? Mm-hmm. And then we start matching resources and planning to those aspects. So if the problem is boys in the river, we haven't found him yet, we're trying to find him, and there's a ton of media showing up that wanted to try and help us tell the story, then I know I'm calling you and saying, James, I got every media company in the Raleigh-Durham area up here trying to ask questions. I can't talk to the media and direct operations at the scene and ensure that responder safety is being accounted for, but just getting resources in. I mean, if you look at a normal car wreck on the side of the road, you'll see 3 or 4 fire trucks, an ambulance, a supervisor. Now imagine that on a larger scale in the woods. Where am I parking all these vehicles? How are these people going to eat? Where are we all going to be where we're not all falling in the river as well? So these are the things I have to think about. Is I might not be the expert in riding a boat or searching under the water, but what I know is that's extraneous work. They need rest and food. And so I need to be able to provide them that as well.
And there were a lot of challenges that night too, because it had rained. So the Tar River was at a minor flood stage, but also in the area where the command post was and all the operation was taking place, it was extremely muddy. So you had fire trucks and other resources getting stuck in the mud and trying to get those out and just trying to keep things flowing there, just from a logistical standpoint.
Well, and think the distance from the hunting shack that we set up the command post in, it was still 600, 700 yards to the river, and that shed is a quarter of a mile back to the main road. So how do we get people from the main road so their trucks don't get stuck in the mud to the command post, and how do we get them from the command post to the water? And now I'm asking people to carry 1,000-pound boats and motors that distance. So these are big problems that we have to try and find solutions to. Now, the great thing about Franklin County is that between the sheriff's office, EMS, and our fire departments, it's a community here. So it's, I know someone who lives across the river. I'll call them up and be like, hey, can we bring a boat through your backyard and set in on that side of the river instead? So one of the great things I really appreciate about Franklin County is the community is always willing to help in many different ways, and you just don't know how you're going to be able to help when we give you a call. But we're very grateful that the community has always stepped up.
Yeah, there was a member of the sheriff's office who was off duty, but his brother was out there with the fire department. He's involved in the fire department. He's just shuttling people back and forth, and we had a lot of that, which was really good. One of the things that felt really complicated with that search is the fact that it's kind of is it a dive operation? Is it a swift water? I know there became, because of the rock formations, there became almost like cave-like issues. And how do you process these varying terrain type things to figure out what kind of searching needs to happen?
Or where even to start to search?
Yeah.
We, within the first couple of days, we started to reach out to various resources with, Nash County Sheriff's Office with bringing in cadaver dogs and special scent dogs from SBI even, and putting them on a boat, which I never thought you could do. I didn't know dogs could sniff under the water, but apparently they can. And we're talking about a 3 or 5 mile length of the river we're searching. How do you narrow that down to a rock formation, right? So these dogs are really sensitive in identifying where people might have been. And so that helps us narrow it down. But then we think someone's in a rock formation that's, 2 stories tall and, hundreds of thousands of tons heavy. Like, you can't just move the rocks. So now it's not only is it a dive operation, is it a swiftwater rescue, it's cave diving situation. Yeah. And who has the experience to go do that, right? Yeah. And there's only so many in North Carolina that has that kind of skill set.
Yeah, and utilizing the underwater drones, underwater sonar type things to give you that information. One of the things that I even always asked about, because the Tar River is a very long river, so it's how far out do you search? But the guys that respond out with the swiftwater and a dive team, there's almost a science behind it. They told us pretty much the area we were gonna find, and it worked out to be that way after a lot of complications with getting the right equipment and everything. But it's very interesting that they've worked in it enough to know how water path works and undercurrents and things like that. They're just kind of like, wow, I didn't even So
a lot in emergency management, we play the possible versus probable, right? In the Tar River, or whether or not it's a hurricane, Is it possible that an EF5 tornado drops out of the sky and knocks out the entire county? Sure. With a tropical storm system, it's probably not going to happen, right? Same with the Tar River Search. Minor flood stage, 3 miles down from where we were, is downtown Lewisburg. Is it possible that somebody could have floated that entire way? Yeah, it's possible, but with all the undercurrents and the makeup of the river and the debris in the river, it's not probable. So when people are like, why aren't we looking 2 miles into the woods if someone climbed out of the woods? Because it's not probable. And even when we say it's not probable, it doesn't mean we're not searching there either. Yeah. We only have so much resources, so we have to narrow down where we're going to look. Yeah. And once we're 100% sure we're not going to find something, then we'll move on. Yeah. And that's what we did with the Tar River. And, unfortunately, it was not a happy ending, but we were able to bring closure to the family. But ultimately, we found the young child about right where all the experts said we were going to find him. That didn't stop us from looking 5 miles downriver, but they found him where all our experts said we were most likely going to find him.
Yeah, and it's challenging. The Tar River is a challenging river. There was a whole lot of challenges that came up with that you wouldn't even think about, like certain types of like debris, like tree limbs and things like that were causing issues. There was rocks in the river, and when it drops down far enough, it becomes boats can't really get into it. I mean, it's
at some point you're walking in knee deep parts of the Tar River trying to look. And we talked about damming up the river at one point. We talked about blowing up rock. I mean,
drilling.
Everything was on the table to try and find that child. And in essence, he found us in our search, which, again, not happy about how it turned up, but we're glad that we were able to bring closure.
Yeah. And, we were able to bring the closure to that. And it was also, I think, stepping back and looking at all of the in-county community resources that we had, the out-of-county support that we had from Rocky Mount and Wake Forest Swiftwater Rescue. And those guys were out there a lot. And I even remember the night of when Youngsville Dive Team was out there, and I relayed this to the media, is that part of your role was to say, you tell me, are your guys, do they need a break? Do we need to call it for tonight because of a safety concerns? And they kept saying, no, we're good to go. We're good to go. We're going to keep going. And the water is like 55 degrees. So it's a cold thing, but they kept pushing. They kept pushing as long as they could, which was, going over and above what anybody would have ever asked for them to do.
Right. And, I mean, I think that's what we all admire about our first responders. They don't want to give up. Yeah. And unfortunately, maybe it's me being a bad guy, but at some point we're going to need you tomorrow if we don't solve this tonight.
Yeah.
It's dark, it's cold, it's wet. We got to pull the plug at some point so we can rest and come back at it again.
Yeah.
And so that's what emergency management also has to look at is the safety of responders. Yeah, we're out there to try and build a more resilient community, but we're also out there to help ensure that our first responders are being taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. So we went. That was a very big incident. Took 8 days. Was it 8 or 9 days?
It was 90 hours, but it was almost 5 days of searching.
Yeah, it was quite a big amount of time there. We had some other things that we dealt with. Luckily, we did all right on our hurricanes and things like that through the rest of the year. But I know we did come around and have some winter weather, even last year and this year. I remember because we had events. I kept going between events because we'd have like an economic development event and it started snowing, and I was going to the EOC because it was snowing. So it was,
Right.
So what did that look like?
I think Franklin County should just be prepared that we're going to have some sort of snow event or winter event annually. I think it's about what we're averaging. Snow is a unique problem. It creates, slippery surfaces. It does go away fairly easily, but when there's a lot of it, it takes it a long time to do that. It's more of a disruptor than anything like that. But we walk through the same process when we look at what's the amount of snow, how much disruption is that going to be? So for us in Franklin County, we start worrying about predictions of 4 inches or more of snow. At the 4-inch mark, things start getting a little treacherous for everybody involved. Well, that's going to be an impactful event. Doesn't mean 2 inches of snow won't cause your car to slide off into the ditch. But at 4 inches, it now becomes, there's going to be areas that not even ambulances or fire trucks are going to be able to get through all that easily.
Yeah.
So it's easy for us to say, hey, stay home. It's harder for us to be like, we can't send an ambulance out because the wind's too high or the snow's too high and it's going to, we're carrying buckets of water from the fire truck to the burning house.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the problem with snow that we see is about after 4 inches, we start to get worrying about it. And I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb. 1 to 2 inches, it's going to be gone as soon as it gets above freezing. 4 inches is going to be with us for 2 or 3 days. And then ice is what we're really scared of. Here in 2026, when we're talking about this, we're coming off the heels of a major ice storm. We were looking at a half an inch to almost an inch of ice. And just to give you an idea, a quarter of an inch of ice is enough to bring down power lines and treetops. I lived through a 2014 ice storm in South Carolina that caused more vegetative debris than Hurricane Hugo did statewide. And so when someone tells me a half an inch of ice in North Carolina, in Franklin County, and I think everyone would agree, power goes out when the wind blows sometimes here. We were looking or expecting 60,000 people to go out of power for 7 to 9 days. So we activated the EOC immediately. We were living out of the EOC for 3 days. That's working, living, sleeping for around 72 hours there, monitoring impacts from ice to the county. Now, luckily we got more sleet, which I don't know if I would ever say that, but sleet knocked the ice off all the power lines, so we didn't experience that big of an impact. But the potential is there, and we have to plan for the worst. We hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Yeah. Those storms were, when they initially came out, and we had this 5 days of we could get 12 to 18 inches of snow. That's really unheard of for this type of area, and especially where I'm from. You have snow, you're not going to get more than maybe 4 inches ever in your lifetime. And to have something that's like 4 or 5 times that amount forecasted is a little jarring. But then the ice accumulation, I think a lot of people don't realize just how much ice can damage. And you're saying in a quarter of an inch can bring down power lines, and we were at half or up to an inch, which is catastrophic. I mean, if it were to have happened, luckily we got the sleet, so we dodged a huge bullet on that.
I mean, take your average ice cube, right? Go to your freezer, pull out a old school ice tray, fill it with water, freeze it, right? It's probably about an inch and a half of ice. Cut that in half. Now lay that on all the power lines, right? I mean, that's what a quarter of an inch of ice essentially is doing. It's going to weigh it down.
Yeah.
And we're expecting up to an inch of that. So ice is a really scary thing for us. Now, this year, again, here in 2026, looking at snow, we were looking at 12, 14 inches of snow. I mean, that's New England type snow there, right?
Yeah.
That's not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah.
And that's going to cause even problems, similar problems. It might not bring down power lines and be as treacherous as what we did when we talk about ice, but 12 inches of snow, a foot of snow across all the roadways, across all surfaces, we're going to start to see potential cave-ins from roofs. And again, the roadways are going to be impassable. Now we're talking National Guard resources needed to come in and, run EMS calls or pull fire trucks through the snow to get to burning homes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like I said, you almost have a generational storm that is crazy. And that ice accumulation too is not like it's snowfall and then turns to ice. It's like literally rain from the sky that is freezing as it hits.
Right.
And so it's just coating and coating and coating and getting bigger. So it was crazy. I've never seen that type of event or even got close to forecasting that kind of event. So that was crazy. And then we had that one weekend. The next weekend we had a legit snow storm come through.
Yep.
Which is a little crazy to have back-to-back like that.
And we were back in the EOC. We were in the EOC for about 24 hours. And now I can't tell you the science behind why Raleigh and Franklin County were spared, all the snow. But, as much as I enjoy snow personally, I was glad that we didn't have to deal with it as much. And so we were able to send people home and demobilize the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, and send people back home to their families to write out the rest. And I think we only averaged around 4 to 6 inches in the areas, but it stayed with us for a little bit, but it went away pretty quickly too.
Yeah, and other areas around did see a little bit more than that, but we were spared. So, what else have we had going on?
Well, I mean, Franklin County is growing. It's a very popular county. There's always somebody doing some sort of festival or event in Franklin County. Yeah. I remember the days of the balloon festivals. Those were fun opportunities for the community and the county. Now there's a rodeo that occurs on a regular basis now that's only growing in population or popularity. I think last year they had 3,000 people out there, and I think this year they're probably going to expect more. Also, last year we had Airfest, one of the first static air displays, and I think Bo over the airport wants to turn that into something bigger and better. Yeah. And the role emergency management has is bringing those event organizers together with first responders and us sitting down and being like, what is the plan if something bad happens, right? We don't want something bad to happen, but what happens if someone gets injured at your rodeo? Who's doing medical? Mm-hmm. Do you need EMS? Do you need volunteers? How are you handling traffic management? How are you handling crime? And a lot, I'm not going to say these people specifically, but people in the community who want to put on these events don't always think about, I didn't think about a car driving through my neighborhood party that I want to throw, and or, we're expecting 1,000 people. Yeah. And 1,000 people, someone's going to trip, slip, or fall, right? And do you want EMS or volunteers on scene that can provide immediate help? Or are you going to rely on the response time from EMS, which is still one of the better ones in the country?
Oh, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But we help event organizers think through all those different aspects of what their event is. Yeah, you have carnivals, you have concerts, you have music, you have all this stuff planned. That's great. What happens if someone gets sick? What happens if someone gets hurt? What if someone does something bad?
Yeah.
I think you would rather want them on site ready to respond than having to call 911. Yeah. And that's what we help event organizers figure out.
It's kind of like with parades and stuff like that. It's great to have like an ambulance sitting there just in case, because you're going to have increased traffic, certain routes closed, and if something does happen and you're having to get somebody there, they might have some difficulty getting there just because of the event, but having somebody at the event.
Right. So, I mean, we helped out in Franklinton for their New Year's event from 25 to 26. Their New Year's event, they had a ton of people out there, and we had a lot of CERT volunteers out there helping. Same with the Lewisburg parades, Turkey Trot in Lewisburg. Oh, yeah. We had volunteers, EMS and an EM out there helping blocking traffic and being there for the runners and event organizers to ensure it was a safe environment. Mm-hmm. But a lot of planning goes into that. Before that, we develop what we call an incident action plan, where we sit down with event organizers and all our first responder partners and say, okay, who's responsible for what? How are we going to respond if something bad happens? And what are our goals and objectives to try and prevent that from happening? And we live off of that plan during those events.
Yeah. And you get to, as emergency management director, you also work with community groups that step in and help out, like the CERT teams.
Yeah, the community emergency response teams. We have a few teams here in the county. We have Lake Royale, Bunn, and Youngsville CERT teams. They're all very active, and they're all very unique in what they provide. Lake Royale will help the police department out in Lake Royale when anything's happening. They'll block traffic for them on a regular basis. They're also getting more involved in water rescuing, from just towing boats who stall out in the middle of the pond to boater safety information. Our Bunn CERT team, they sort of do it all. They do the CERT stuff, which is the special event, situational awareness, public safety. They're dabbling into the medical side. How can they get more medically trained and involved in helping EMS provide medical care during some of these special events? And our Youngsville crowd is very in tune with the fire department down there in promoting fire safety, fire prevention, and then working with our fire department in Youngsville. in supporting the public safety needs in all the different events that are happening in Youngsville these days.
Yeah.
So they all have their little niche that they focus in on, but Tar River Search, major events, the Walk for Peace that just came through with the monks, we'll pull all those CERT team members together. And because they all go through the same training, they have the same mentality, and they all have the desire to help, we're able to leverage them to be a force multiplier in what emergency management is able to accomplish.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot going on in emergency management. What's on the horizon?
Well, I mean, we're still early into the year. I mean, we're into March, but I mean, welcome to spring. So, you know, who knows what's going to happen. I know Airfest is still on the table. We're looking at those events. We know the rodeo is going to be coming up in June or July. That's going to be a fun event.
More events with America 250 this year. So we'll have the fireworks and some other town events that are going on. Which
is a great reminder. Right in the middle of the ice storm, I already got an email from Franklin County Parks and Recs wanting to go ahead and sit down and start planning 4th of July. They're expecting twice the amount of fireworks, if I'm not giving away the secrets too soon. That's going to be a really big event for Franklin County, I think, and it's always been a fun event. But we want to make sure that we're working with our county partners and our first responder partners to make sure it's also a safe one. So those are some things that we're looking forward to now. But that doesn't mean someone might not call us up and be like, I want hands-only CPR training. How can we do that? Is that something EM can do? Or is that something I can facilitate with our EMS partners? So so anything and everything is still on the table for this year, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Okay. All right. Well, that is it for today's episode of On Scene with Emergency Management. We hope these insights give you a better look at the work happening right here in Franklin County, and more importantly, help you be more prepared for the unexpected. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe and share it with a neighbor. If an emergency happened in Franklin County right now, would you get the notification? Don't leave it to chance. Head over to franklincountync.gov/emergency alerts and sign up for our emergency alert system. It's the fastest way to get life-saving information from weather warnings to road closures sent directly to your phone. It takes minutes to sign up, but could make all the difference when seconds count. Check the show notes for the link. Remember, a prepared community starts with a prepared you. Until next time, stay safe and stay informed. We'll see you back on scene soon.